Welcome to Between Two Coaches. We're on a mission to make fitness more human, snark sold separately. I'm Coach Amanda, and I'm joined, as almost always, by my co-host,
Coach Nick. But today, as you might see if you can have your cameras looking at, we have a special guest. We want to welcome Vicky, Sekely, of our sister podcast, Train Smart Run Strong, co-host, also of Train Smart Run Strong on Instagram and TikTok and the website. Hey, Vicky, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, guys. I'm so excited to be here. I love that we're the sister podcast.
Yes, like sister countries, right?
Yeah, like Canada and the U.S.
Yeah, or sister cities, right?
It's a great way to describe it. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Am I the first guest still?
You are the first guest.
I am beyond honored. Beyond honored. This is so fun.
You're number one, and no one can replace you. I would say, while Nick did share that you are one of the hosts of our sister podcast, I think your role in both of our lives far surpasses that. Surpasses sisterhood.
Are you guys just gonna shower me in praise this whole hour? Because I'm here for it.
That's why we had you on.
That's why the topic is what it is. How to shower the influencers in your life. Some of them need to be hosed the fuck down, though. So
I would agree with that. Am I even an influencer? That's a question that's been on my mind recently.
Ooh, yes.
We'll get into that.
But
yeah, Vicky's also my athlete, which is how I met her through Instagram many years ago, and we shared in DMs, and then she was like, "Will you coach me?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And we've been on a fun journey for 2.5 years.
Yes.
Amanda, today I learned Vicky reads none of the 57 emails I've probably sent over the 3 years being her coach.
I'm so happy you actually brought this up because I feel like Amanda is going to be on my side with this. It's just another boundary that I have that my entire life is about running. All the emails I get are about running. And if there's an email that I don't know, it's not an email that's just going to me, by the way. It's a broadcast email. So if I don't have to read every single sentence, I'm probably not going to. And it's just a way to keep me sane. So it's nothing against you, Nick. It's just a boundary that I have that I'm if I am overly exhausted about looking at running content, I am probably not going to be reading extra running content.
Don't personalize it, coach.
Yeah. Nothing personal.
I mostly brought it up because I knew Amanda would side with it, and because I thought it was funny. But no, I don't personally. I don't even like email, so it's my least favorite form of communication.
Same.
How do you feel about Google Docs? Can we
go into that one?
Do you guys have one open right now?
We do. I do.
It's of course we do. Vicky and I initially. Did we first connect on the gram before I said I need to hire you to save me because I need somebody with a brain in their head who is credentialed, experienced, and can talk me off the ledge in an injury last year. And that is precisely what the doctor in the house has done for me over the course of the last year. And I will always sing her praises because of everything I just said. She has supported me emotionally, physically. Actually, think about it. When we talk, physical therapist as a title for you it doesn't really do it justice because the physical is 20% for me. It's giving very much brain therapist, sometimes I feel emotional therapist.
My job is 50% talking people off the ledge of a running injury, so to say, and then 50% telling people that they have to, pull it back a little bit because they're doing a little bit too much and we're approaching an injury. So it's really, that is where the line is. And I feel like it's either extreme every single time. It's very rarely in that middle ground. And I'm happy to be that person who's navigating between each of those. It makes it fun, for sure.
And that's why
Vicky is a firefighter.
But it's why I send... It's why I send athletes to you, because like, I find a lot of physical therapists are always like all or nothing. It's like, oh, don't run at all, or like, you're fine, everything's fine. And like the athlete's like, hey, I'm in pain, what should I do? My PT said this or that. And like when I send to you, it's always like this approach of like, hey, we could probably do this, load management, like, but here's what's going on, like here's what's not right, here's what's right. Like you give a more centered approach to help athletes actually get back, as opposed to like, oh, just rest for 3 weeks, it'll probably fix itself. Like it might not.
I've never heard Vicky say you should foam roll that stress fracture. That's what you should do. I, for one, have not.
Ever hear me say that? I've been hacked, or like something has happened to me. Like do a wellness check on me, because there's something going on. But no, I mean, I think a lot of that is also just like, I've been in the position, I've worked a PT job that is very influenced by insurance. I don't think a lot of that is because of the physical therapist. A lot of it is just our healthcare system and how it's designed. And a lot of PTs who take insurance have to treat a certain way. They have to show certain things. And I don't agree with that approach. And I think that a lot of why I started my own business and a lot of why I don't take insurance is because I don't want to be dictated by that healthcare system and the way that it works, because it's never like all or nothing. It's never like, here, do 3 clamshells, because I have to document that we started that way. Nothing against clamshells. It's just something that most people can relate to, because that's usually what they're given. And yeah, I just think a lot of it is just from experience. And I don't necessarily think that it's the physical therapist's fault, because I've been there. I've been that person. And you're kind of stuck.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree. And so, South Park, I don't watch it, but I saw a clip. They did a hilarious little bit about the healthcare industry in America and all the problems. And it's like 3 minutes long, but it's fantastically laid out of like referral, this and that, insurance denying. It was just very good. And just made me think of that, because I just saw it like 40 minutes ago.
That sounds good. That sounds great. That's actually a good...
Tregway.
We use Tregways here too.
We do.
It just started right now.
That's amazing. So everyone listening to this who hasn't listened to my podcast is like, what are you talking about?
This is
you haven't explained.
This is going to be your task. After you listen to this podcast, you are going to find, follow, and give a 5-star review to Train Smart, Run Strong's podcast. Yeah, I'm just telling you what you need to do today, okay? You need to leave the clamshells in the ocean. You need to foam roll the stress fracture. And you need to get in on the lingo. The word is Tregway. The word is Tregway, okay?
I think most people can probably guess what that actually means.
Yes, if they know who Treg is.
Right.
We're gonna leave a little mystery.
We'll leave mystery.
A little mystery.
I like that.
Of course, you could bring up Treg in any capacity you see fit. But I think that is, you shared a little bit about your background, your professional background, right? And so today's podcast, we're going to be talking about navigating social media as a run coach, as a physical therapist, somebody with a professional role outside of social media influencing. And you alluded to it earlier. What is an influencer? Do you consider yourself an influencer? I'm sure Nick and I have opinions about that, but I would love to hear from you how you feel about that term.
Yeah, it's funny because if you'd asked me like a year ago, I probably would have said, yeah, I'm an influencer. I have a following. But I'm not so sure I identify with that word as much anymore, or at least the way that I am now approaching my content. And just like, I think that term in general over even the last year has become something different than what I do on Instagram and TikTok and all of the social media pages. I guess in a sense, like anyone with any kind of following has influence. So for like literally saying it that as simple as that, like someone who has influence is an influencer, sure. But it, you know, in a way that like people look at, oh, is content creation my entire job? No, it's actually a very small part of my job. Do I need to be doing content creation to have my business? I think a lot of my business is relied on my content creation, and that's kind of, but it's more like marketing and less like content creation for brands and that type of stuff. So I actually love that we're having this conversation today because it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. I recently posted a de-influencing post, and that hit me so hard because it was kind of like, wait, this is why I've started my social media page. This is what I connect more than quote unquote influencing. And so it's been this thought in my head where I'm like, how am I showing up on here? What am I doing? What am I like? What am I influencing? What am I not influencing? And the de-influencing post was really, really, I felt was more true to who I am as a person and what I'm trying to really be doing on social media. And that doesn't mean I don't have like certain brands that I love and I care about. Like, there are some brands out there that I really, really do use all of the time and that I love. But I am never going to be the type of person to just like work with brands and make that my entire job is to be content creation and rely on that. And if that doesn't make me an influencer, then I think that's more of what I fit in with. So I'm not really sure what the term is, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I think that was a really good explanation. I think I saw your de-influencing post, and I think it's well done in a way of like talking about. And I think of influencing. You can like a brand and you can support it, and that's one thing. And it's like influences like ideas that end up carrying a lot of weight in social media that wouldn't necessarily carry any weight anywhere else. Popular things we've heard over the years, like zone 2 is like an influencing term that it turns into a buzzword that we use just to get clout, to get seen, to get, whether it's funny, making fun of it, forward, whatever it is, right? And we've seen these phrases over the years. And like, super shoes, like how everyone talks about them needing them, and you'll have success if you have them, instantly if you put them on. Like, these are things that, like, we're influencing people to go down this road, whether it's makes sense or not, whether it's there's science around it or not. It doesn't matter. It is just something to get noticed. And I really liked your post to like point out things that, like, here's things that I don't do that don't have value because of these reasons, and you don't necessarily have to follow those.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately like one of the first reasons that I gained a little bit of a following, like went viral, which was for me back then like 100 likes on a post, like right in the beginning was telling people that they like don't have to be foam rolling, and just like, if you're going to be foam rolling, let's just say it what it is. Like, it feels nice for that moment, but it's not reducing your risk of injuries, nothing like that. And that is why I've been here this whole time. It's like allowing people to, first of all, trying to combat all of the misinformation online. Secondly, just allowing people to make more informed decisions, because so many brands, so many content creators will on purpose use misleading language to try and get you to like their post, buy their product, do this, do that. And that to me just seems so gross in a way, like, and that's another reason that I have like a trigger. Nick knows this a lot. I don't know, Amanda, if you know this, but like, I have a trigger against even people who are in my field, who are big influencers on Instagram, using certain terms and wording that they know is misleading to get content, to get likes, to get clicks. And then in the caption, they're like, oh, but this doesn't prevent injuries. And it's like, no, but the damage was already done. Like, you already said that doing a lunge and then a squat and then a deadlift is going to like you're never going to feel knee pain again. Like, you already did the damage. You can't go back on that in the caption. And look, like, I am guilty of like using trending audio and like trying to simplify a topic in order for it to get seen more on Instagram. But it's just, there are some people who use misleading terms and words in order to get more followers and likes. And that to me has always felt so slimy and gross. And it happens all of the time. in so many cases.
There was what you're sharing, there was a study that came out most recently. The figures around it I know are underestimated. And the study looked at 50,000 of the top fitness influencers, and 80, which I know is a gross underestimate, that 50,000 exists. It's more like 500,000, if not more than that. And 87% of the 50,000 that they audited had made false claims in their content.
First of all, we love a stat.
We love stats.
I like to throw it in. To throw it in.
Doing that research, we love it.
It's not. It is insane, and yet intimately from being in this space, and just in your industry alone, you're like,
it's not surprising.
Not surprising.
It's insane because I don't understand how it's still happening. I guess I do though. Like if I really were to think about it, I do. Look, like I can understand from like an athlete or a client's perspective, or like someone who's watching Instagram content, someone running injuries, I guess, are the best way to talk about this. Like someone who's injured, you go on Instagram, I can understand wanting a quick fix. I can understand wanting something, seeing something, and just feeling like it's going to help you. Because it really, like, I get that. I get that you need that feeling of like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why my injury is flaring up. Here's a quick explanation about why. Here's a quick explanation about what I can do. Okay, I'm going to, like, this person looks like they know what they're talking about. They're a PT. They're a personal trainer. They look like they know what they're doing. I'm going to follow them because this makes sense to me. But in reality, like, it's just misleading. It's misleading to think that that's how injuries are treated or that's what you should be doing.
What's even worse is that we're going to social media and sometimes we're seeking out a professional who also happens to be an influencer's take on something that we need, that, as you said, that quick emotional support, that physical support. But I actually like, and you know this to be true, that there are people who are who just are fitness enthusiasts, fitness lovers, who are runners, who have no credentials, no experience.
Who might be fast.
Right, they're fast.
Whatever that means.
And so
whatever that means.
Correct. Yeah. And so that makes them qualified to talk about, well, this is my experience. Yeah. And so this is what maybe you should do. And it gets so many eyes, so many ears, so many saves, right? And this is how an audience grows for influencers who aren't educators, who aren't professionals in the field.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nick. I'm just going to say this really quickly, and then I'll let you speak since this is your podcast. You know, I've tried to dissect how I feel about this a lot because obviously it happens all the time, and someone being on there who wants to obviously continue to grow because I feel like I have something important to say. I want to continue to get to know people on Instagram and have a business that I'd like to run as well. I feel like those types of people, the fitness enthusiasts who are like, I did this for my knee pain, you should try this, they don't bother me as much. And it's because as a physical therapist, someone who is a medical professional, it hurts me more to see colleagues in my field doing that because we have a literal, we have an oath that we have to take about being a professional in this field and knowing what we're talking about, and still going online and seeing people in my field doing that type of stuff irritates me so much more because you know what you're doing even worse. Like I can see this the enthusiasts are just like, yeah, well, I'm helping someone, whatever. Like I truly believe the healthcare professionals, they know they are being purposefully misleading, but they cannot stop this cycle of posting that, getting likes, getting followers, and then creating more of that content. And they're addicted to it. But they know it's wrong because they have gone through the schooling. Hopefully they have worked with clients. They know that's not going to be helpful, and they still do it. And that irritates me more than the enthusiasts. So those people, I'm just kind of like, okay, well, they don't know, they don't understand. Like hopefully people aren't going to go to them for injury advice anyways at the end of the day. Like maybe they'll try the 3 exercises that they posted. When you see it from a medical professional, I think that just triggers me more, and I think is way worse in my opinion.
Yeah, And I agree with all that. And I feel like social media does this to people, right? Because you want to start your own business. Well, you need to find people, right? And so the only way to market is this free thing called Instagram. It's not free. It costs time. But, so you're like, well, how do I get noticed? Okay, well, I'll just try this thing once. So, okay, well, look, it worked. I'm getting followed. And like, they just like, well, I'm just going to do it this way to get noticed. I'm just going to market this way. It's just marketing. And then when I get people with me, then I'll really be a doctor. I'll really be a running coach. I'll really be the things I need to be. But like to get people to see me, no, I have to do these things that are, borderline sketchy, this gray area of like, encapsulating everyone. Social media is this short, and sometimes it's hard too because social media is this short form thing. Like you do a long form type post, you talk a lot. Like most of the time, no one's gonna scroll right by if they see it's more than like 7 seconds. If it doesn't if you don't have that quick hook to get people hooked in, and usually those quick hooks are these deceiving things anyway. Back to this idea of like content creators versus influencers. This is why podcasts at least are a little last medium left that exists where we can have conversations like this. People can listen to on the runs and they can hear all this stuff instead of like us trying to cram this entire conversation down into an 8-second reel with trending audio and a great hook, right? And then load up the caption that hopefully people read. Like it just doesn't work. And a lot of people don't have the ability to be that creative, right? And then the last thing I wanted to say was just about like, people who are faster runners marketing themselves in a certain way. And that bothers me a little bit as someone who, while being genetically blessed, had some success in running, right? And so I have spent my entirety of my career, later in life and as a coach, making sure people realize that my time means nothing. I'm not a good coach because I can do some time. I'm not a good coach because I coach people who run fast times. None of that means jack. Like I elevate people who are in here, educated, trying their best, caring for their athletes. And I always elevate these people because otherwise people are going to hear these people who are fast and think, well, that's what I follow. Kipchoge's not out here doing these 3 exercises I do to help me run a 2-hour marathon. But like if he did, I'm sure everyone would do it, but he doesn't have to want to and knows better.
It's the same thing running, and it's the same thing even if you're not a runner, if you are somebody who identifies with taking group fitness classes, HIIT classes, strength training classes, cycling classes, and you are on social media looking for some education, even if it's by ways of influence, and you see somebody who in your mind looks fit and they have the aesthetic and that's not a credential. Being born with thin privilege is not a credential. Putting anything, muscle mass on is not a credential. Right.
If anything, I was like, thinner and like maybe looked more like sporty when I was in the midst of my eating disorder.
Same.
It has no like. Anyways, I didn't want to cut you off, but like that is not a credential at all.
Girl, you can always cut me off. You can always cut me off because one thing about me is I'm going to make the hook for this podcast. Fix your injury with these 3 tips from Dr. Vicky. I'm coming for you, and it's going to be 4 seconds in like
that's
reel.
The title of the episode. Seconds. There we go.
That should be the title, though, and then force them to listen to this because it's like maybe that should be all of our content is like, oh, watch these 3, and then it's not. But see, people like I've tried to say this on my Instagram posts before, and again, like I can understand. People have responded and been like, well, sometimes it is helpful to see this type of stuff because I can't afford to go to physical therapy or I can't afford to get a coach or I can't. And I get that. But what I'm trying to say is a lot of the times adding 3 exercises into your routine could potentially be more harmful. So like, in one case, it might be helpful. In another case, it might be harmful. It cancels each other out. You might as well just not see the content at that point. Like to me, that's not even an argument because it's like it does nothing for you though. Like even if it may have helped, that could be a million other factors that could have helped, including like placebo, which we now know placebo doesn't even really do much. Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah. Where are we next? You cut me off at a perfect time. I think that
Tregway.
Another Tregway.
It is our impact on let's talk a little bit about how it impacts you as a coach.
Yeah.
And how you show up on social media personally.
Yeah, it's interesting because someone just asked me, like, if I'm a coach and I'm a physical therapist, like, why do I have a coach as well? You, Nick. And I think that's just a good question to bring up. I think a lot of coaches need coaches for that reason. So as a coach and as someone who has a coach and understands the value of having a coach, I think showing up online and, seeing that type of content already just makes me understand that like a lot of people don't understand the value of having someone in their corner, someone who understands them, someone who can help them through. And this isn't just about injuries or physical therapy. This is about everything. In terms of just like running and trying to reach your goals. So as a coach, it's something that if you can't understand the value of that, then it's not even a conversation to be had with. You'll never get this conversation then, Does that make sense? Am I talking in circles?
No, it was a rectangle, I think. Is that a thing?
Still ended up in the same place.
Just kidding. No, it made sense. I just wanted to say rectangle. No, and I had a coach too until just recently when I got hurt, and I was a coach for a long time, and I learned a lot from my coach. I think, as social media pertains to coaching and like how we show up and how it affects our sports, I spend a lot more time, I feel like now 5 years into this coaching thing, kind of debunking stuff, and like steering people away from things that I find on social media. Like there was a time last fall, a bunch of coaches like DM'd me on social media and they're like, hey, this influencer talked about how, and I won't say where or what because everyone will know, but like about how you should do all these long runs at marathon pace only and this and that. And like, I'm like, okay, well, I'll put this in my newsletter or just like kind of like send this out to people as like little, like, hey guys, you might see this, but here's why it doesn't make sense. Right. And for you and your career and these types of things. But like, lots of stuff, it's like, it's constantly fighting against the viral content that, everyone is seeing. And you're like, I know you're seeing this. Here's why it might not make sense for you and your career, because you'll get athletes asking, they're like, oh, should I do this? Or I heard this on this podcast, should I do this? And you're like, there's no reason to do that. It doesn't make any sense. Like I started fighting recently about mileage challenges with athletes of just making sure like, hey, I know you might get a prize for doing a certain amount of miles, but like, I just want to protect you guys from overdoing it. Right. And, making sure we're all in line with our goals and what's going on. Right. And, just so I feel like for me, it's a lot of like fighting against the people who have bigger followings, who get more viral posts, who know how to hack the algorithm. I hate that word, hacking, but like, to get their content seen, and like me just trying to be like, protect at all costs. Like I look at all my athletes, it's just like I'm trying to protect them from misinformation, from lies, from all this stuff.
Yeah, I also think what I realize a lot of the time is like all of that stuff really goes so deep. And I think that's why people like us are on the internet, almost like we almost have to put our phones down at the end of the day and like scream into the void, because like how many times have like I said that heel striking isn't bad and we shouldn't be all switching to forefoot striking for no reason. Literally, I added 2 athletes onto my calendar last week who both got injured from forefoot striking. And I had to literally be like, oh no, you shouldn't be changing to forefoot strike. Like that's not a benefit. They both follow me on Instagram. That maybe they haven't seen me talk about it. I don't know. But like, it is still this misinformation hole goes so deep and it affects so many people. And I think the people like us who are like really trying our best just to at least bring people to middle ground and not believe these like extreme, that's ultimately what it is. Yep. The content that goes viral are these extreme ideas. It's like, even sometimes I even find myself being like, I'm posting about strength training a little bit too much. Like I got to bring it to the middle. Like strength training isn't the answer to everything either. And you know what I mean? Like, I think that people who Instagram, social media, lacks nuance, and pretty much the answer to everything, the answer to getting faster, reaching your goals, rehabbing your injuries, that you have to include nuance in order to get there. And that's just not what social media is. So we kind of have to like learn how to play the game in a way. And there's a lot of people who do it really, really well. One of my favorite content creators is the chiropractor Aaron Kubal. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but like he's able to take that content and like spin it and say it in a way that makes a lot of sense. I gotta say, I could probably never do what he does, even though I agree with all of the things that he posts. He's got a skill, he's got a talent to be able to do it. He also gets a ton of hate. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to be out there and a lot of his videos even like I feel like goes above people's head. Like the other day he posted a video about how tibialis anterior raises, which is like the new hot exercise, the viral exercise online. Just it's not that cool of an exercise. Like it's really not that interesting. And he's getting hate. Like, why would you say that's not a good exercise? And he had to literally be like, I didn't say it's not a good exercise. I just didn't say that it was the best exercise ever and it was going to bulletproof your knees and it was going to do this, that, and the other. Like there's a difference. And people have almost lost that. Mm-hmm. They've completely lost the ability to like see the nuance and like see that it's usually not going to be this what like it. We don't all have to cut out processed foods. That's not what registered dietitians are saying. We don't all have to like completely cut, like there's nuance to everything. These super extreme viewpoints happen to be the ones that go viral because it's interesting to watch and it's an interesting idea, when in reality, like it's really not that deep. Like it's somewhere in the middle, and it's kind of always been.
The other problem is what you just hit upon, is that people are now conditioned to have such a short attention span when it comes to taking in any sort of messaging. So you repeating yourself about strength training. On my content, I am repeating myself about building bad bitch bones or making sure you're fueled enough or fighting the disordered voice in your head whenever somebody is shoving down your throat, fasted cardio is elite, right? Like all these different messages. And I recognize that in the beginning, I remember thinking to myself, am I repeating myself too much? But then I recognize that really we actually need some of these messages reinforced because people aren't getting it the first time. People aren't reading, correct. People aren't reading the captions. People aren't listening long enough to hear the nitty-gritty details. The first time, and myself included, and I'm somebody who is incredibly detail-oriented, but today I was watching a video that was recently posted, some new information / old information, but new information about spring energy. And we had somebody, that video from Coach Jason Coop was, I think, close to 10 minutes in length. And I'm like, I cannot believe I'm like on Instagram. I'm like, I'm still watching this? Like, what am I? But every nook I was just like, I was engaged. And I don't remember the last time that I really engaged with a reel or a video in that way, unless it was a podcast. So it just goes to show you that what people are able to tolerate now when it comes to messaging is so short. It's
about storytelling. So if you can tell, like the spring energy saga it's a bad story, and it wasn't like made up because it was, people got hurt and lots of bad things have happened. But because of everything that's gone on, it's like now we're engaged with all content around. It's like me and Vicky were sharing a lot about the Royals when everything was going on with I don't even remember which princess.
Kate Middleton.
Yeah, and like I was engaged, and I didn't even care about the Royals at all. But I was just like, this is intriguing. I need to know what's happening. So like storytelling, whatever it is gets you engaged.
I have an interesting thought about that. I want to come back to it in a second because I just want to bring up something that you said, Amanda, kind of like launched this thought. People are also conditioned at this point, you and I as well, just in the era of smartphones and everything, we want instant gratification. Like I want my groceries delivered to my house in 3 hours the second that I click send. I want Amazon to deliver my package, overnight, all of that kind of stuff. We're kind of used to that. We're used to getting information right away through Google, through our phones. And in that way, that has almost become the downfall when I look at the perspective of like running injuries and injuries in general, people are expecting to get better right away and want that quick gratification, that quick foam rolling session that makes them feel better 5 minutes later, that Theragun that makes them feel better 5 minutes later, when we have completely forgot, we've lost the plot. Like, do you actually want to just foam roll that injury, or do we want to get to the bottom of the reason why the injury happens so that it doesn't happen again? People almost at this point would just say no. They just want the instant gratification. And
I just want to feel better.
That's almost like, that is probably the best part about me leaving my previous job and starting my own business, is I don't work with clients who don't want to get to the root of the issue. I just don't, first of all, those clients are never going to pay to improve their injury anyways. So I just don't see a lot of them anymore. Like, who want that instant feeling of improvement and pain are probably never long-term going to get the benefits of actually like real injury rehab. And a lot of that is from social media, just instant gratification. That's why we see on Instagram. But here's this kind of a great segue into the next point that you were talking about, Nick. It's interesting because I have a theory that it's the way that Instagram, the app itself, is designed. Because on TikTok, I have no problem watching 10-minute TikToks. That's actually majority of what I do on there. And I post longer form content. It almost becomes annoying because I want to post way longer, but I then don't want to do double the work and then have it to put it over onto Instagram in 90 seconds. But the way the app is designed on TikTok, it is a lot easier for me to put my phone down, listen to it, walk around, move around, whatever, and it's just kind of playing in the background. Instagram is harder. It's almost designed to scroll, and it's designed to look at stories and do all of this stuff. TikTok, I can literally just set my phone down, like scroll occasionally. It'll like loop the video back for me if I didn't hear it well the first time, so I can just kind of leave it. Like, I engage with longer form content with no issue on TikTok. So I'm a TikTok fan. I don't have half as many followers as I do on Instagram. I'm still trying to figure it out. I almost feel like a dinosaur when it comes to that. Like I feel like I don't get like I'm not like the Gen Z. I struggle to make longer form content, but I'm trying to, because I really do believe that will allow for nuance, the nuance that I'm trying to say. However, it still comes back to the point that like when I've tried to make those longer form videos, it still doesn't hit, because it's like I'm not giving people that, like, even in a 10-minute video where I explain that I can't through a screen fix your Achilles tendonitis without knowing anything about you. Like, that's not what people want to hear at the end of the day. So it's just an interesting thought.
You are not a dinosaur. I just wanted that to be clear to everyone.
Okay, I'm a millennial.
She's the youngest Tregosaurus on this podcast.
I identify with that.
Youthful as hell. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And in the same way that you keep TikTok on in the background, I've noticed that now I've actually stopped going into my Netflix app on my television. And I'm like, I'm just going to watch. And by watch, I mean listen to video podcasts on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube.
Next thing you know, I'm in my second hour. I'm like, where am I? Who made this chicken parm? Was it me this whole time?
Am I doing something wrong? Because like I guess it's the same with TikTok, but like if I have the YouTube app open, like it doesn't keep playing if I like go to something else.
That should not be the case. On your phone or on your television?
Yeah, on my phone. You have it on the TV. You put it on the big screen.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'm able to exit the app now. Yes, it's on the big screen. I'm able to exit the app on my phone and it still plays. You used to not be able to do that.
On the TV?
No, on the phone as well. So in the past, when you left YouTube as the app, it would stop playing.
Yeah.
Now, like recently in the last probably 4 or 6 months, I don't remember when I noticed it changed, but I left YouTube on the app and I was like, okay, all right.
Because that's what Spotify does.
Doctors of Running is still running. All right.
I love Doctors of Running. Shout out. They're great.
They are good. They are good. I agree with you. Yes. I also, one thing I wanted to note is when we created this outline for our conversation tonight, one way that I thought about the answer to that question about how we show up individually in our sports, personally online, is I know that you are very transparent with your journey as a runner from little Vicky to adult Vickyhood and all the areas in between. And I know personally for me, and it's just who I am as a person, just like it's who you are as a person. I like to be as honest and authentic as possible, but I'm a pretty private person when it comes to my fitness journey or signing up for races, or it's just something that I guess because I'm engaged with it all day, that I really hold it close to my chest, and I don't want it to distract other people. Or you just have such a great way of doing it, and I don't know that I could be so eloquent in it, because I see a lot of comparison when folks look to me as they're like, oh, well, she's doing that. I just opt out of the conversation by not being a part of it. But I really love the way that you show up personally as well. So I just wanted to, that was a statement that I wanted to make sure was shared.
Thank you.
Ditto.
That actually means a lot, because I'm right now like almost towing this line, kind of like what I mentioned about TikTok and like wanting to TikTok and Z in general, like just have this really interesting way of like sharing their lives, like even just like little clips, like that B-roll type of film that I think that our generation honestly just isn't used to, because we didn't have phones with us all the time. Like we're one of probably the last generations that like didn't grow up with that. So I think that's why I struggle a little bit. However, sharing my journey and that kind of stuff is kind of like, that's who my sister, I always make the comparison between me and my sister, because she's a big runner as well. She's a psychologist, but she has always kind of been more quiet. Like she's always held her thoughts close to her, which I think is a huge strength and I think is amazing. I am kind of a chatterbox. Like I have always, since I was little Vicky, as you mentioned, since I was literally like, since I could talk, I was talking. Like I just like to share everything. My parents are kind of that way. Like they never kept anything from us. They were talking to us about everything, including their fights, unfortunately. Like, and that's kind of how, like, good or bad, I'm talking about it. And so, I think that's also why my journey, if you haven't listened to my podcast, I'm just restarting therapy, is going to be very helpful. However, I also think that's why it's taken me this long to get back into therapy, is because I talk about myself so much to other people, to my friends, to my husband, to my mom, to my sister. And like it almost exhausts me to a point where like I can't get on a call with a therapist and tell them all my problems too. Like I just spent the last 2 hours telling my husband like he's sick of me, I'm sick of me. So like that has always been kind of true to myself, is like I'm a talk about it. So like I think that in a way is beneficial in the sense that like it comes off as just like I'm open because I am an open book. Like that's just literally how I am. However, similar to you, I do have my boundaries. And I think a lot of that comes into play when it's like I'm putting the phone down. I'm not responding to text messages. I don't read some emails. Like there are certain boundaries that I have in work professionally and on Instagram. But like just sharing my journey is not one of those for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think, social media boundaries are super important, right? And so, to your point, like I grew up never bringing my phone on a run, right? I was going out for a run today and I was like 5 minutes in. I was like, oh, I should have my phone and I could have taken content. But I was just like, sometimes I don't even remember. My watch also plays podcasts because I have an Apple Watch. So like I don't need to bring a phone to like stream music or podcasts. So like it saves me from having to bring it for that reason. But like a lot of my life, I don't think to capture. I don't think to talk about. Like I'll see people like share their mornings and they'll have this whole like epilogue of their morning and their day, and I'll be like, oh man, I have some of those thoughts. I could share that, but I can never think to. I'm just like running about my day. I'm going to work. I'm like engaged in life in front of me, and then I'm like, well, what about social media? So like sometimes for me, it's just forgetting that like it does exist, right? But I set up a lot of social. I try and do better with boundaries and like when I'm engaged, especially my family, like why I'm not social mediaing around my kids I try not to be if I'm out with them. Like we went out yesterday to this jumpy place, and I was trying to like make sure I wasn't on social media just streaming, and like even though like I couldn't, they wouldn't allow me to jump. I was too big, jerks. But I try pretty often to like have these boundaries, like when I'll use it, what I'll share, like what I'll when is appropriate times to do it and when is not, right? And I struggle with them, but like those boundaries, especially around like athletes too, like what I'll share about athletes and what they talk about, what I'll even glean from athletes posts. I know early in my career I joked about like, oh, when athletes they'll be like had a great workout in their log, and then on Instagram they'll be like worst workout of my life, and then I would read it and I'd be like, and then I thought about it over the years as I've gotten more experience, and I'm like, those aren't thoughts for me, right? And that's okay. I can read it, but like I shouldn't take that as like this is how they feel about it to their coach. This is how they feel about it to their social media, to their audience, to their people. And if they really were concerned about it, they'd come to me, right? They know I make it so clear you can talk to me about anything. So because I give them that in, like so I started like that as a boundary I really still am working at, but doing a better job of like protecting like their conversations with me as to me, but also their conversations not to me as not like things I should be working on or learning or judging them against.
Something that you said early on in that kind of brought up something that I wanted to bring up on this podcast, actually, just, when you guys sent me what you guys want to talk about for today. And it actually pertains, I haven't even talked to you about this, Nick, even though you are my coach. So this is a perfect time to bring it up, because I've been thinking about this a lot recently. As an influencer, the air quotes, very much air quotes, someone whose entire job is running, right? So like I have my running athletes, I have my running social media, I have my running Instagram, running TikTok, even friends in my life at this point, like they text me about running. They're taught like it's constant running. And I've been in this really weird space that I've almost felt not motivated for my own running. And just like, it's really hard to make my running not feel like my work. And a lot of it is because some of my content has been changing as well. Like I'm filming more like as I'm talking while I'm running, because that content has been doing well. So I'm doing more of that. And I went on my run on Sunday, which was my long run. And I was like, I'm not going to take my phone out of my pocket. And just like, it was almost like this feeling of like, thank God I don't have to take my phone out. Like, and it kind of made me sad in a way. Like this used to be only for me. And I never, similar to you, never used to take my phone out. Like, I mean, I would for safety, but like I would never look at my phone. I would only listen to music. I wouldn't be talking to my phone on my camera. Like it was my sacred time. And so much of that has been taken because it's now my job, that I'm like in this weird place where I'm like, I don't know how to balance that right now. Like, I don't know how to get motivated for my own running without making it feel like work. And I think a lot of that is tied to like marathon training as well. And like, I should be posting about that because that content does do well. Like all of that stuff. Like it's so hard to detach. And I don't know how I'm going to do that because I also want to make content, and I feel better. I feel more productive when I make that content and it does well. It's like this vicious cycle of like, I make content, it does well, but then am I mentally is that mentally healthy for me? Because now I'm taking pieces out of my time that used to be for myself and is not anymore.
I think we just identified why I am
I'm in therapy.
Why I'm a peasant and why you're in therapy. No, it's I'm a peasant because I actually like, even if you see me, so one, I don't do any like mile 1, mile 2 content because not only does it actually give me indigestion to watch those videos.
Wait, you don't like mine?
No, I like yours because you give it incredible context. You're like, here are 5 running injury or running myths, for example.
Not just like mile 1, my day's going well.
I'm like,
mile 2, I have a race on Sunday. Yeah.
Right. Mile 3, this is my easy run. Mile 1, 7-minute 51.
Right.
Shut up, Laura. Shut up.
That's my pace.
Don't start with me. All of my videos, so this is inside information. Any video where you see me training, you see me strength training, you see me doing any of my physical therapy homework assigned by Dr. Vicky, any runs, they are happening after the fact. They are not live. So I end my run and I'm like, all right, just go down the block.
Hell yeah.
Because I personally like
breaking news.
And listen,
I love that.
It's fake. It's an act because it's
all fake.
It's all fake, right? It's all fake. And there's a line between social media is real for us in the ways that you mentioned, right? It's a tool for similar to you. My entire personal training business is from social media or word of mouth. That's it. So it is a tool that we use, but it is staged. It is staged to an extent. And so one thing that I know to be true about the way that I approach social media that I think is a great boundary for me that maybe others want to implement if they find themselves in similar situations where they have a hard time detaching is literally do not allow that tool, and it's hard once you're in it, of course, do not allow that tool to infiltrate the thing that you love. Like then it becomes a job, like you're sharing. It becomes a job. And suppose I'm coming at it from the opposite angle as you, because I never did it in real time. So it's like I don't have anything to dial it back from. But it is my social media hack, if you will.
we love that kind of hack. No, it's true. It's staged. And I think that's exactly why I'm feeling this like mental fatigue, because I'm trying to almost like not cut corners, but like I'm trying to double up my time now. I'm trying to make content while I'm also out for my runs, which look, like I never really used to do. Like I used to do strength training stuff. Like Instagram is constantly changing, content constantly changes. But now it's like I'm finding this little niche, which I enjoy from a content creation standpoint as well. But I haven't realized that like, oh, it's actually cutting into the time that I usually have for myself.
Yeah.
And that is affecting my mental health. Like it really is, because it's hard for me to now even be excited to go run because it feels like work. And then it's like this vicious cycle. And yeah, I think it's draining. So we have to have those boundaries. Another boundary that I have, and I hate to say it right now because I love you guys. I love every other person that has a podcast, but I don't listen to running podcasts.
Good for you.
Yeah, I don't care.
And I love your podcast. I listened to the first 2 episodes, but like it really is draining for me. I don't even listen to my podcast back. First of all, because I hate listening.
I can't listen to my voice
but
either.
Like, yeah,
I think I'm the only one who listens in full to our podcast.
You're not the only one who listens to your podcast.
Out of Nick and I, between the two coaches, I listen, I watch.
That's
my
awesome.
husband Nick has to listen and watch with. But I hear you.
Just download it. We don't need you to listen.
It's a way that like, and I started this a long time ago. Like this is not new. It's one of the simple ways. Like there's a lot of people also that some of you guys know on Instagram who I have muted. Not either of you guys, because I love both of you and that's real. But like I have muted a lot of people who are colleagues in this space because I just can't, like it is draining for me to constantly see that kind of content. Most of the content that I engage with is like, what did my dog do today? And like that type of stuff that brings me joy, like New York City stuff, dog content, like that's the stuff that I like to see. And that's what brings me joy. And that is the boundary that I have. I think a lot of people in our space probably think I'm like mean because I'm not constantly liking and commenting people's stuff. But like, it's a boundary that I have. And it's like, it's something that is helping my mental health. And that's the same thing with podcasts. And it's probably something that I have to do with content creation now too, even though I have a lot of really good ideas for that type of content, so it might not be for a while. But Nick, I actually think it's helpful that we're like kind of taking a little bit of a break in training blocks. So I think that'll be helpful too, that I'm not like actively like in a marathon training block or something like that.
Yeah. I think at the end, like the more as we become professionals in this sport or in fitness and their sports, whatever it is, like the more you engage with it in different ways, the more it becomes everything, right? Like if running is your entire life, if fitness is your entire life with no outlets, like it's going to exhaust you. Eventually it's going to catch up, right? So those people go all or nothing and they abandon their friendships and they don't go out and they don't see people and they're like, got to work out, got to lift, got to content create, got to like, those people don't exist for longer than 6 months, a year, maybe two. Like they disappear, but we don't see when they burn out because they stop posting. And you're just like, wow, that person really was going after it. They're great. Like, look how engaged, look how like supportive and engaged they are. And you're like, maybe not. Right. And so, I think on top of that, it's like, and we could talk about this more, Vicky, too, but like, I think it's important always to like carve out boundaries and make time for yourself, right? Like sport does require you to be engaged with it. And like, I struggled with this a lot when I became a coach, where I didn't set the right boundaries and I got more engaged with my athletes than even my own journey. And like, it's sometimes hard pulling that out, as a big empathetic person and sensitive, I'm like really rooting for them. And, having a coach in my corner is always like, hey, but your journey matters to you, and your athletes see you showing up in your journey and seeing you, passionate about it helps them become passionate about it too. Right. And so, it definitely and this is the complicated nature of life, right? None of this is easy. We're all showing up, doing our best each day, and we're seeing how we can make it work.
So if there was something that you wanted to leave with folks who are not influencers, right? They're consumers of content. When it comes to social media, what's something that you think would be important for a content consumer, whether it's in fitness, running, rehabbing an injury? What's something that nutrition even, because although we don't necessarily, the three of us do not have expertises in all of those areas, to be a responsible content consumer is something that we know how helpful it is to our personal health, right? What is something you would recommend?
I think just like, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Like, just nothing is black and white ever. So
except my favorite cookie.
Approach. That's your favorite cookie? No.
The black and white cookie?
You're a true New Yorker. I'm not.
Yeah, stay in Jersey. Okay, stay over there.
I'm gonna stay across the I think that, and also never lose sight of the bigger picture, because it's so important to stay grounded in the things that like truly matter. And we haven't even talked about this on the podcast. I'm sure you guys have in previous episodes. Sleep, nutrition, hydration, like the stuff that probably your favorite big influencers aren't talking about, because it's not the cool thing to talk about, except for me, Nick, and Amanda, because we will die on this hill every time. Like, really make sure that you're always looking at the bigger picture, because that's what matters most. Yeah, you can engage with content. You can try an exercise that you see online, but never put all your cards into it. It's not black or white. It's not going to be the be all end all. And that's probably for the best as well, because there isn't like one solution to every single problem. And we're all different, and like just recognizing that there's nuance to everything. So always come back to, okay, but what can I control? And I probably don't need to buy the next thing that the influencer posts about.
Right. So. Right. Exactly. I need to actually get my basics down.
Yeah.
Basics aren't sexy, so that may not get clicks in
and
this house.
One of mine is mental health. Like, that is really something that I have needed to prioritize for a long time, and have literally, yelled at from the rooftops on my Instagram, mental health is important, and yet somehow was lost on me. So I understand how you can very easily lose sight of the bigger picture and not even recognize that you're doing that. But it's huge if you can come back to it.
Love that.
So for every guest,
AKA starting now,
beginning right about now, every guest we ask starting immediately. 3 questions.
3.
Amazing.
The perfect number to solve anything.
According to Instagram. The first question is, what is the one thing to fix my IT band? I'm just kidding.
Clamshells.
Keep the clamshells in the ocean, Dr. Lou. All right. What's number 1? What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
About anything?
Yeah. Anything in your life.
Okay, I have to say this because it's the first thing that came to my mind, but it's something that it's similar to my last statement. My mom always told me, because I was someone who, like, playing junior sports, if I, like, lost a tennis match or something happened, I would be, like, crying and just feel like, oh my God, the world is ending, whatever. And my mom would always say, it's just a drop in the ocean. Like, again, zoom out, bigger picture. And that's something that I've been bringing with me the last couple races that I've had. Like, if it hasn't gone my way or whatever, panic attack, all that, like, it's just a drop in the ocean. And I think that just helps me gain perspective again. So yeah, that's the best piece. And my mom always comes in clutch with that type of stuff.
We love mom advice.
Grateful for her.
They're always so helpful. Love that advice. Number 2, what's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
This is kind of funny. It's kind of like goes against everything that I just said. But I'm like, I kind of love fashion. Like, I'm a little bit of like a fashionista. Like, I love, like, on the weekends going out to dinner and, like, putting on a cute outfit. I saved a lot of money to secondhand buy a designer bag. Last year, like, I used the success of my business and, like, a big moment in time to finally buy this bag. Like, I, like, kind of weirdly love fashion, and I don't really talk about that much on my Instagram. But yeah, I'm a little bit of a fashionista.
Get your literal bag, sis. Get your literal bag. We're all for that here. Okay. In this house, we collect the coin, and then we have a place to put it.
Okay? My husband would be like, okay, but don't look at our closet because it's, like, overflowing with clothes. Meanwhile, I'm like, don't buy anything you don't need as my closet.
Sam, if you're listening to this, mind your business, Sam. Mind your business. Okay?
Exactly.
All right. And the last question, what's something you wish more people understood about the physical therapy industry?
Does it have to be, like, something different than what we just talked about?
No, you can, as we shared on this podcast, you should repurpose content.
Once is never. I think, actually, I'm going to go in a different direction. I really truly believe that physical therapy is having a big moment right now in terms of how people see us. Like, people still fully believe that they have to be in person, they have to receive manual therapy in order to get a good physical therapy appointment. That is simply not true. I literally went into the physical therapy profession because I love communication. I think communication and the way that we speak to people is super important, which is why I constantly fight against misleading words and terms that people use online. I think that's very important. Communication is everything when it comes to physical therapy. And you do not have to see someone in person in order to receive high quality care. I do think there are certain circumstances because physical therapy encompasses a wide range. Like, I'm probably not going to be able to help a 95-year-old who just had a stroke get out of their bed by, virtually. Like, that's obviously not something that I'm going to be able to do. But I think that our profession should really, really take note and take advantage of this huge movement in virtual spaces. And I will continue to fight that because I think that's so important. I think that gives more access to people. I think it provides more accessible costs as well for this type of information. And especially in the running world, 10 times out of 10, it can be most likely solved through virtual. Look, I am not the type of person, I'm not an expert who is going to give you an MRI. That's not what physical therapists do. but I have the knowledge to differentiate whether or not you need one. And I do not need to see you in person in order to do that. And anyone who says that is just trying to take your money to see you in person. Like, it's simply not necessary. So in many cases, I'll add, because there are some cases that are. But yeah, that's what I want to say.
Ooh, I just need to say that you are that skill set though is not your skill set of being not just a good communicator, you're not just good. It's like in every facet, you're good at communicating, whether that is something that you grew up knowing how to do, or if it was a learned behavior. That is actually not every physical therapist has that skill. Just how I know as a full-time fitness professional, that's how I know that my experience being the director of communications and marketing in my previous life was not a fucking waste. Because I show up to the studio and I'm like, y'all don't know your ass from your elbow, because for the last 10 years you've been taking this class, no one has told you or shared it in this fashion. No one has met you where you're at. And that is a skill. So that's a skill that you have, Dr. Vicky, and not everyone has that skill. So
right on.
They either gonna learn today or they're not gonna learn at all. Okay? Credit to you.
I think it's so true. Look, like, I think there are amazing, very knowledgeable physical therapists or doctors, whatever, in the healthcare industry. And I think they have their strengths. Mm-hmm. But specifically in my profession, if you are not a good communicator, it is really hard to be good. And you probably are using other tactics to get clients, which is fine. But being good at communication is one of the most important things. And you do not have to be in person to do that. And I just think that there's this preconceived notion that, I mean, I guess it's in the name, physical therapy. Not really, though. We're not massage therapists. If you want a massage, go to a massage therapist. And that was a huge problem, actually, that I had in clinic. Like, people would literally come and be like, I just want the massage today. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you have no idea what we do. And I think a lot of people have misled their clients because maybe they're just not good at communicating. 99.9% of my job is just being able to understand my client and what their goals are and help them reach it. And if I can't explain to them how we're going to do that, then I'm not doing my job.
Personal testimonial for me is that I initially spoke to Vicky the month of April, and I didn't meet her until the New York City Marathon.
The same day we met.
The same day, in person, okay? Yeah. She saw me run by her, I think, in Central Park. We waved to each other.
I waved to you. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
but I'm like, I'm not stopping, Doc, okay? So, no, that was, so just to demonstrate how skillful you are at your role as a physical therapist and as a strength trainer and run coach, I can't speak highly enough for that free testimonial. Okay, that was great. Right.
I'll give you the dollar bills.
No. I need you to keep those coins for your next bag. Okay, don't even start. Don't even start with me.
My husband is literally going to listen to this and be like, Amanda's a bad influence.
You can send me an email, Sam, at between
and a 5-star review, please, Sam.
And a 5-star review, please.
He will.
Thank you.
Well, Vicky, thank you so much for joining us. This was just a wonderful conversation. It's our longest conversation ever.
I can talk.
So many great tidbits of information. We went through, how to navigate social media as an influencer / coach. We talked about how social media boundaries, how we show up, how we fight misinformation. Just so much great information. Vicky, if people want to follow you or reach out to you, how can they best do it?
At Train Smart Run Strong, Instagram, TikTok, and also my website, trainsmartrunstrong.com.
And your podcast.
Oh my God, Train Smart Run Strong. You guessed it.
Thank you all. And by all, I mean anyone who's watching or listening to this. Thank you all so much for joining us. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. You can reach out to us at any time, specifically with compliments. That's TWO coaches at gmail.com. We love to also solicit some more questions from y'all for our listener love section. Feel free to send those to us via the gram or to that email address. And of course, we appreciate and welcome 5-star reviews. And I suppose we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Peace out, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.